My name is Tarek. Welcome to Thorin's YouTube channel.
Final of the ELEAGUE Major Boston is upon us. We know who it is. It's FaZe versus Cloud9. As ever, you can bet on this particular game on esports pools if you get there in time. I've obviously gone ahead and bet on FaZe, as you'll see at the end of the video. Now, with this being FaZe versus Cloud9, we've got a lot of interesting storylines here. It's the first ever final for Cloud9 as an organization in terms of all the players in the team. It is, on the other hand, the second ever final for a North American team. Obviously, Team Liquid, ESL won Cologne 2016, made that inspired run on the back of Simple's carry play, where him and ELEAGUE really powered the team through Na'Vi, through Fnatic, and they played SK in the final where they lost. This is the first final for every single member of Cloud9. The only player in Cloud9 who had even been in the playoffs of a major was actually Tarek, and he'd only been to the round of 8 at MLG Columbus. So everyone's playing in their first final, so possible pressure there for the team. It's actually the first final of a major, though, for 3 of the FaZe players, which might surprise some people considering how many tournaments they've won over their careers. Karrigan, never been in a major final, obviously come very close when he was in TSM/Astralis. Nico had never actually been in the playoffs of a major before because he was trapped in Mouse Sports, and then FaZe bombed the last major, obviously, went 0-3 in PGL Krakow. And Rain is playing in his first major final. We might remember he was in the semi-finals and was actually a round away from playing in the final of DreamHack Cluj-Napoca back when he was on G2, not to be confused with the French team now. That was back when it was the team that essentially became FaZe. Now, an interesting detail is that these 3 exact lineups have met 3 times already in best of 3 series. ESL won New York in the semi-finals. FaZe 2-0'd Cloud9 very easily. 16-4 Mirage, 16-3 Overpass. So only 7 rounds total for the Cloud9 team. Obviously, FaZe didn't lose a single map at that event, actually. Then you go to IEM Oakland, a tournament that actually FaZe did not win. It's the one they lost in the final to the guys from NIP in 5 maps. Now, they met in the semi-finals at this tournament. 16-8 on Train, 16-6 on Overpass for FaZe Clan. So, okay, more rounds for Cloud9. Still didn't get double digits on a single map. Still only won 15 rounds total over the 2 maps. Finally, at ECS Season 4, the last event for FaZe, in the group stage, the teams played in the decider match to get out of the group. FaZe again 2-0'd them, 16-8 Mirage, 16-11 Overpass. So, okay, more rounds again for Cloud9, but still only 19 rounds over the 2 maps. Easy wins for FaZe. FaZe overall 6-0 in maps, 3-0 in best of 3 series. Only once out of the 6 maps did Cloud9 ever get to 11 rounds or ever even above 10 rounds, quite frankly. So it's been one of the most dominant one-sided matchups we've had between all the top teams. Bearing in mind, yes, Cloud9 is a top team. They're a number 4, number 5 team in the world, but they're getting dominated by the number 1 or number 2 team in the world, depending on your ranking system. Number 1 in my ranking system. So, okay, let's look first of all at the teams individually in isolation. Then we'll go into the matchups. And since we have so much back history between these 2 teams over the last sort of 4 or 5 months, I went back and I watched all those series again between them to see what interesting kind of details I could get to come into this match now. So, okay, FaZe Clan. They are still amazing, utterly amazing on Mirage and Overpass. Now, they haven't had to really play Overpass a whole lot of this tournament. People have stayed away from them on it, but they've played Mirage a bunch. They played against Mouse Sports. They've played against Cloud9 not that long ago, as I mentioned. They played against Na'Vi at this tournament on Mirage. Still amazing for them. Funnily enough, this major has actually been more for the team here about getting wins on the other maps, though. Train has improved. They've improved that a lot, but they haven't had to play it in the playoffs. Inferno has improved also. Na'Vi actually picked it against them. Cash is a map that they've been playing and working in there. Nuke is obviously a map they were forced to play by Mouse Sports, and they beat Mouse Sports on very narrowly. Cobblestone they don't play. It is their permaban for a reason, and it remains their permaban. Now, if you go over to the Cloud9 side of things, here's part of their problem. Their best map statistically is Mirage. So they're going on their best map against a FaZe team whose best map is Mirage. Now, the problem here is, at least in the past, FaZe was also godlike on Inferno, utterly amazing on Overpass. Inferno's fallen off quite a bit for FaZe. So, at least in that scenario, you know, you might think to yourself, well, you got to pick one of these maps against them, so we'll just take our chances on Mirage. Now, FaZe knows it's your best map, so you end up often picking it into them, and then they're just picking the other map. So that's what happened every time they met in the past. FaZe would make Cloud9 pick Mirage, or one time they picked Train, and then FaZe would just pick Overpass themselves. FaZe would win a Mirage anyway, and then FaZe would win Overpass as well. So the problem for Cloud9 is the temptation to go into their best map, which is Mirage, but then give themselves a very bad chance against FaZe in that sense. And also, as I said, they'd never actually got double digits on Mirage against FaZe. Now, otherwise, Cloud9, a very good team on Train, but they haven't been playing that in the playoffs. They played Astralis on it in the Swiss system, beat them there. They haven't played Train otherwise. They have, interestingly enough, played Inferno because they played that as a decider against SK. They won on Inferno. So Inferno's starting to turn around as a map for Cloud9 because they were a team that was pretty shaky on the last few months. And since that's a map that FaZe actually hasn't been as crazy on recently, that's something we got to look out for and wonder about, because maybe you could gamble if you're Cloud9 and pick that. I think it'd be very bold, but maybe they can. Now, Cobblestone has always been a solid enough map for Cloud9. It's obviously the map that FaZe doesn't play. They played it against SK. They lost it against SK. Probably not going to see any play. Overpass has been a trouble map for Cloud9. There are only 2 out of the last 6 that they've played on it. 2 of those losses being to FaZe. But they did beat G2 on it yesterday. So if they play that again, maybe there's a little bit of hope there. That is the one map that they got double digits on against FaZe when they won 11 rounds on it at ECS Season 4 in the group stage. And Cash has been up and down. They lost it to G2 in the Swiss system. Obviously, it's a map that actually has been being somewhat emphasized out of the other maps by FaZe Clan. Cloud9 does not play Nuke. Generally, FaZe doesn't really want to play Nuke. So here's the problem overall, is that we've had these matches play 3 times in best of 3. So we know what the pick ban's like. And for anyone wondering, the pick ban's very similar every single time. Because when it was ESL New York, we had the permabans come out first of all. That's happened in all 3 series they played. But at New York, Cloud9 picked Mirage, FaZe picked Overpass. Now, because they got battered on them, at IEM Oakland the next time around, same permabans. This time Cloud9 thought, let's try Train. That's a map that actually FaZe hadn't really played a lot. It's not really one that they looked as strong on. Problem is, FaZe smashed them on it. I think it was like 16-8 or something. So Cloud9 thought, you know what, next time, go back to the other one. So at ECS Season 4, same permabans, same picks as New York. Cloud9 picks Mirage, FaZe picks Overpass. FaZe wins 2-0 again. Now here's the interesting part, is that if you're FaZe, they either ban Train or Mirage and force the decider to cash. So every single time, ESL New York, IEM Oakland, ECS Season 4, the deciding map would have been cash. We just never got to see it played because obviously it never got to a deciding map. FaZe always one-handedly 2-0 every single time. Now that's interesting now because odds are probably going to see the same permaban again. Odds are Cloud9's going to pick Mirage or Train. But then again, Train's improved for FaZe. So you think to yourself, maybe they're going to go for one of those 2 maps again. Odds are FaZe is going to pick Overpass again. They've never lost it against Cloud9. Why not, right? The interesting part for me is, will the decider be the same? Because it would have been cash every single time. And that's an interesting factor. So if we look at it right now as the pick ban, Cloud9 very likely will just ban Nuke. It's not a map they want to play. I know they said that they were going to not ban it against... I think it was against SK that they were going to not ban it. I think that's correct. So I actually think in this scenario, they will just ban it anyway, because I think that they're worried that we know that FaZe at least has been practicing it. FaZe has beaten Mouse on it. Just for comfort, you're in a major final. The ultimate pressure is on you. I don't think you want to leave it open and actually gamble that Carrigan picks it. Now, I personally would gamble because I'd rather play that than have him pick Overpass and batter you on it where you haven't been that good on Overpass, even if, yes, you beat G2 on it. So personally, I would take that gamble. And I'd say if you want to waste your ban on a map that's not really one of your best maps, rather than play one that you dominate me on, I'd personally take that. But thinking of the psychology of the teams, which is what I try to do, I think Cloud9 will just ban it. Now, for FaZe, similar scenario. Cloud9's not been that great on Cobble recently. Losing to SK on it means they probably would at least have to second guess picking it as their map when they can instead pick Mirage, which at least they have comfort on. So you could float the Cobble ban if you're FaZe and instead ban, for example, well, I mean, go for whatever you want at this point in time. You could ban Train, you could ban Inferno, you could say whatever you don't want to play, get it out now. Personally, I think that Carrigan actually won't mess around with this veto because he's had so much success and you can kind of run it back. I think he'll just ban Cobble. So now in terms of the picks, I actually expect it to be an identical veto to ECS and to ESL. I think that Cloud9 logically will pick Mirage. I think they had such a good game against G2 and SK on it. They were looking amazing on those maps. So if you're Cloud9, in this scenario, I think you sort of have to say, I mean, if I'm at top form, I have to hope it's just different to the last times. I think maybe I've changed something up on my Mirage. Let's play it. The problem is I think that actually FaZe could be the best Mirage team in the world right now. So personally, if you want to have the underdog chance to win, if you're Cloud9, I actually think you should gamble and either pick Train, still a very good map for you. Or if you want to go really crazy, pick Inferno. It's a map that at least teams have had a chance on against FaZe. And so, hey, maybe you open it up a little bit more. Obviously, you had an amazing game against SK on it. I don't know where to go on that. I think it will just end up being Mirage, sadly. FaZe, I think you should pick what you picked every other single series you played against Cloud9. You should pick Overpass. You have such a sick history of it on it. You can also presumably have watched the Cloud9 game against G2 on it, because you know Cloud9 isn't going to ban Overpass. It just seems very unlikely they will. So you could already have scouted it. You did so well every single time on it. Why not go ahead and pick it? If those two maps are done, then I think the standard bans come in the same way. Cloud9 bans Inferno, FaZe bans Train. We end up with Cash as a decider. There is a different possibility, though, here, which is that if you're Cloud9, you could ban Cash instead and push Inferno as the decider, because FaZe has been a little bit more ropey on it. Cloud9 looked great on it against SK yesterday. Why not make that the decider? I know you've never gotten to a decider. It's never mattered before, but you've got to plan for it in a final. You never expect if you're Cloud9 that you're going to 2-0. Now, if it is indeed Cash, and this is the interesting part of why I think maybe they might go for the Cash ban, or maybe the Cash... or maybe FaZe could try a crazy Cash pick against Cloud9 actually to throw them off, is because in Valen's interview, he talked about Cash not being that good for them overall. When Stewie2K was talking about G2, I think he said that he expected G2 to pick Cash because they'd been very good on it. So these all add up to the fact that you could see some movement there. But otherwise, I expect the same maps to actually come out. And if the same maps come out, I actually do expect the same result. I expect FaZe to 2-0 it. And even if somehow it gets to 3 maps, I think FaZe will do it on Cash as well. Now, the question is this. If FaZe picks Cash as their map, will they still win? Yes, I think so. Now, Cloud9 has a shot on Mirage. It's just I think FaZe is a better team there. So I expect actually that FaZe will win that anyway. So the only scenario I really see it going to 3 maps is if Cloud9 does a really big gamble and they pick Inferno. Now, if they pick Inferno, I think they could get it to 3 maps. I would still overall favour FaZe to win that one. If it's a deciding map, that's more interesting because then there'd be a lot of pressure at it being Inferno. Overall, though, on all these scenarios, I actually don't really see logically how I can pick Cloud9 to win any of these in isolation. Even though, yes, I think they're a good enough team that in theory they could get a map. So I think it will be 2-0 to FaZe overall. Now, interestingly enough, let's not leave it there. Let's go back into the old matchups and find some interesting patterns or trends. So the first matchup, the ESL New York one, was the most one-sided. They gradually got less one-sided, even though, I mean, the fact that the least one-sided one was FaZe winning 16-8 on Cloud9's pick and 16-11 on Overpass. Not really that close all the same, but whatever. When you go back to the ESL New York semi-final, Guardian was an absolute monster in this one. Nico was very good. Over on the Cloud9 side, Automatic did really poorly. Tarek did really poorly. Then you go to IEM Oakland. Now at IEM Oakland, Guardian again, absolute monster. Automatic again, really struggled. Then you go over to ECS. ECS, Olaf Meister actually did amazing. Nico did amazing again. This time, Automatic struggled yet again. It was Stewie2K who joined him in struggling this time. Now, here's what's interesting. In the 6 maps they've played, the first half of all 6 maps has seen FaZe win either 11 or 12 rounds. Now, 4 of those, they started on CT side, so they've just got dominant CT sides, which is what FaZe is pretty famous for, right? But what people won't be aware of is, every time FaZe has started T side, so 2 of the times on Overpass, they started on T side on the first half, because obviously Cloud9 picked CT. FaZe got double digits on that as well. So it's been such a bad matchup in all regards for Cloud9. Now, in terms of players, one massive factor for them has been, okay, so you might have noticed over the last few months, every now and then Skadoodle has a big series, or he has a big map, or he starts a tournament strong, but then he fades semis and final. Wait, they obviously don't make the finals very often, but semis, quarters, he starts to fade, his numbers average out, he ends up with that 0.6 FPR that he just gets all the time. One of the teams he has been the least effective against is FaZe. Over the 6 maps he has played against FaZe, he is at a minus 50 kill death differential. This is a guy who gets dominated against FaZe, doesn't have massive impact, but the other player, and this is the alarming one for me, because he's been doing so well this tournament, is Automatic. Automatic himself is at a minus 43 over 6 maps. And minus 28 of that has come on the 3 Overpass games. So you can see Overpass is a nightmare for Cloud9 right now, and particularly Automatic is doing terrible. Tarek, interesting enough, you might remember I said Tarek did badly at ESL New York. Tarek struggled on Mirage. So you can see if Automatic's doing terribly on Overpass, Tarek's doing terribly on Mirage, these maps are hurting you in that scenario. Because actually, you look at them overall, and Cloud9's strength, especially at this major, has been having the big 4 Tarek, Automatic, Stewie 2K, and Rush having pretty even kind of frag spread out. So that means they're all doing their job all over the map. They're all doing pretty well. No one's hard carrying, but no one's having a hard carry. That doesn't happen against FaZe. Automatic completely goes to shit against FaZe, and Tarek has his problem on a particular map that you nearly always end up playing. Now, in terms of the FaZe players, when you play Mirage and Overpass against them again in your Cloud9, you get dominated by Rain and Olofmeister on Mirage. Obviously, Olofmeister plays fantastically around the short A area of CT. Rain is really good in terms of T-side entries. And then beyond that, obviously, he plays very well at the A site. Over on Overpass, it's Nico and Guardian who are dominating there. They really switch it up, but generally, Nico's always on the B site. Guardian swaps between the two sites. That's one of the factors when FaZe plays against Cloud9 that I think really throws Cloud9 off. Because since Cloud9 want to throw smokes and then burst through smokes to make a lot of aggressive 2 or 3 man pushes onto the A site, for example, on Mirage, you end up in a scenario where FaZe swaps up their CT positions at the A site a lot to give you a new look every time. So you're trying to bust in and be the one doing something unpredictable, but you don't know who's going to be there. And if it's different, it's going to be very different if you're playing against Rain at a spot or you're playing against Guardian at a spot. So it's tough to know what you're going to do. So you see from FaZe, they'll swap Guardian from the mid/connector to the ticket booth. They'll swap Rain from the T-ramp area over to the ticket booth. They'll swap Nico from the mid connector over to the T-ramp. And so since they're taking these 3 players and swapping them, not completely randomly, but into set positions, each one has kind of 2 he swaps into, you get a different look every time at the A site. And then when you go to B, it ain't working out nicely at B, because remember what I said, Nico and Guardian dominate on Rain and Olaf rather dominate on Mirage. Olofmeister plays over on that B site with Carrigan. Now, when you go to Overpass, it's the A site again that they're mixing up the players. So typically, you're going to see Rain over there, you're going to see Guardian over there, but you know what? They don't have problems switching out Carrigan and Olaf to play over at that site at different times. So again, you never know what look you're going to get on the A site. Now, I went back. These are 2 teams, both pretty good pistol teams, right? And particularly FaZe, usually when they've been super dominant, they've been winning most of their pistols. So I went back, first of all, and looked at when they played each other. Now, at ESL New York, FaZe won all 4 pistols. At IEM Oakland, FaZe won all 4 pistols. Now, at ECS, FaZe only won 1 of the 4 pistols. And this was the series that was the closest between the 2. But you know what? That didn't end up being that much of a factor, because the map that Cloud9 won both pistols on was Mirage, which they still lost 16-8. The map that they only won 1 of the pistols on was Overpass, which was the map they got 11 rounds on. So not really a function of pistol rounds, actually. Even though normally FaZe, yes, does very well on pistol rounds, it doesn't particularly matter against Cloud9. And actually, over this tournament, this is why this is significant, FaZe in the playoffs has only won 3 of the 8 pistol rounds. Now, Cloud9 is 50-50 for pistol rounds. They won 5 of the 10 pistol rounds they played. But as I said, not that big a deal. Both good pistol round teams. Both teams also who on rounds where it's not a pistol round at the beginning of the game, but a map where you're doing a save or a half buy and you have a lot of pistols, both also very good pistol round teams. Also teams that are very good with deagles, funnily enough. Problem is this. Those force buys go both ways early on. So it doesn't matter who wins the pistol round. There are force buys early on. Cloud9 wins rounds early with half buys. FaZe wins round early with half buys. Unfortunately, overall, for the whole match, it ends up being better in terms of force buys for FaZe. Cloud9 still does win force buys, and in fact, if you go and look, a lot of their round wins are actually force buys against FaZe, just because of how they play off of them. Reminds me somewhat of LDLC in that sense. So the fact that they're still not getting double digits despite winning force buys, not a good sign. Likewise, Cloud9 has won a few clutches over these matches. Didn't end up helping them get the double digits. So unfortunately, my big problem here is, I think that actually Cloud9 is the team that's the closest to the mini FaZe. It's just they don't have Carrigan. That's part of their problem. Because they're a team that has skill and star power, pretty good differential. Problem is, guess what? FaZe has better skill, better star power, similarly good distribution. Cloud9's good on pistol rounds. FaZe is also very good on pistol rounds. Doesn't end up being much of a factor as a result. Cloud9's good with half buys, with deagles, with pistols, with force buys. FaZe is good with deagles and pistols and force buys. I'd say even better because, yes, you know Stewie 2K and Automatic have monster deagles. Guess what? I'll take Rain and Nico's Deagles over those any day of the week, son. Then you look at the Force buys. Okay, they've got really good ones. The problem is that Skadoodle isn't as impactful on the Force buys. Guardian can be very impactful on the Force buys. In fact, I've seen scenarios where they've just done mini forces on FaZe around Guardian saving an AWP, and they just win the round off it because Guardian's so mobile with the AWP and gets lots of kills. FaZe is just better at everything they do against Cloud9, and Cloud9 really suffers as a result to find any kind of edge. And when you have two teams who play a similar style and have similar strengths, actually, it should be a mismatch. You don't get great matches from that. Great fights, as they say in boxing and in combat sports, come from different styles. And unfortunately, you don't get that when Cloud9 plays FaZe. Finally, people might think to themselves, the home crowd though. Everyone in the crowd's going to be cheering for Cloud9, right? Home crowd factor. They've already beaten G2, a team that was supposed to beat them. They've already beaten SK, okay, with a stand-in, but still historically expected to beat them. Maybe the crowd's going to be a factor. Problem is, think of those tournaments they've played. ESL New York, that's in New York. That's a home crowd. Didn't matter at all. IEM Oakland, also a home crowd. Didn't matter at all. In fact, those are the two series that are the most dominant by FaZe. So you know what? Since it's the final, we have to throw in psychological factor. No Cloud9 player's ever been to the major of a final. In fact, Cloud9 as a team have only ever won one big event, right? They won EPL Season 4, which was before they had Tarek and Rush. So quite frankly, they're not a team that's won massive tournaments very often. They're also not a team that's ever been under the big lights of a major final. Now, Olaf and Guardian have, Karrigan hasn't, Rain hasn't, Nico hasn't, but Rain and Karrigan have had many playoff series in big finals. I expect nerves to hit FaZe a lot less. I expect at least one or two players on Cloud9 to have nerves, and the fact that Skadoodle traditionally does so poorly, that's not that big a deal if he has nerves here because he doesn't particularly have a big impact in the series. But I will say this. I'm looking at Automatic right now. First of all, I'm looking at Automatic for the entire series because he's been so bad against FaZe. Then I'm also looking, if Mirage has played, at Tarek because he's been a guy who's been underwhelming. And I feel like that is a storyline. It's one that I often stressed when Cloud9 first made this lineup. For me, the good thing about having Stu2K as the in-game leader was he always managed to somehow not only get the best out of himself and call around himself, but he always somehow put Automatic in good positions or made calls that made sense to Automatic because they have a similar philosophy that allowed him to do well. But when Tarek came along, Automatic generally was a little bit worse, especially early on. He had troubles, and especially against FaZe, he had massive problems. Now, the upside of that is Tarek generally has done better himself, so it's evened out and become less of a two-man team like the old Cloud9 lineup was. But if Tarek does badly on Mirage and Automatically does badly over the series, they cannot win this series against FaZe. So I'm picking FaZe to win 2-0. Even if it goes to 3 maps, I think probably FaZe 2-1. I think it won't actually be that great a final overall. I don't have to claim it will be or claim it will be some great match. Congrats to Cloud9 for making it this far, but I think this is where FaZe wins. They complete the storyline. Karrigan gets his first major. Guardian gets his first major. Nico wins a major, so young in his career. Rain, veteran player, wins a major also. And yes, it's great that Cloud9 made it to a final, but no major for you this time, my friends. As always, I'm going to go to esports pools, and I'm going to bet on who I think is going to win the final. So I go to esp.bet. And I'm going to go down here to betting and pick CS score. And here's the final. Right, understandably, FaZe is the team that is heavily expected to win this one. Remember, they have played 3 best of 3s against this exact same team. They have never lost a map. I think only one map ever did Cloud9 even get double digits. So understandably, FaZe is a heavy favourite. And I actually think in this final, they also are going to go ahead and be a heavy favourite, going to win the match. And I think actually some of the inexperience from Cloud9, this is where I think it'll probably catch up with them. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll go for a big one on this one. I'll go ahead and say, let's go 20 euros, shall we? I've created a Patreon, so if you're interested and able to support my work financially, then check out the link in the description box below and become a part of the Skrilluminati today.